Do you guys hear that?
Is that boss music?
Go naked and just go with the sword and that's it.
What do I do with all this?
It says it in the title.
Hello, and welcome back to the Unearthing Games Podcast. I'm Nick, and I'll be your lead excavator today. I'm joined by...
Hi, I'm Erica.
And we dig games. Welcome back, everybody, or welcome if you're a new listener. Today we're going to talk about 2 new video games that we've tried, as well as a new board game. But before we get into all that, we're going to tell you about what we've been up to this week. So, Erica, what have you been up to?
I have been up to a lot. I feel like it's been a long time since we recorded, even though it hasn't been. I did try to go back and play FTL a bit. I did go back and play Shapes.io. I talked about that in the last podcast, so I went back and played that. Got a few more levels in and then realized it was really late or early in the morning.
I think it was like 1 a.m., right? when we went to bed. So.
Yes. So I played some of that. I played the game I'm going to talk about this week. I didn't get to finish it, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. And other than that, I haven't really been doing a lot. Just work, some knitting, not a lot. Just relaxing, you know. What have you been up to this week?
I've been up to a bit. I played the game I'm going to talk about today. I've also been trying out some other games. I got a 3-month trial of Xbox Game Pass, so I'm pretty excited about that. It's given me access to a lot more titles than I already have, which is crazy because I already have so many titles. It's ridiculous. So I'm excited about that. I have a whole new world of games to try out. Game Pass seems like a pretty cool service. I've also been doing kind of our standard weekly stuff. I mean, I always tap into RimWorld and FTL a little bit, you know. Other than that, though, you actually were so kind as to get me my very first Raspberry Pi. So super excited about that. We're going to use it as a Steam Link, I guess, since Steam no longer makes those. They're not in production anymore. So I'm going to kind of turn it into our own little Steam Link and probably hook it up to our main TV. So I'm super excited about that. It'll make it so that either of us could play our games and, you know, not have to be like off in the other room from the other person. So it'll be nice. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I'm excited about that too. I love just sitting and knitting while I watch you play games.
Hey, nothing wrong
so
with
that's
that.
what I spend most of my time doing is, you know, knitting while you're playing a video game and I'm like backseat gaming like, oh, you missed this or oh, look over there. That's my pastime.
I don't know how many times you've cheered me on to get me through some ridiculous boss fight or something where I'm just like, I die like 30 times and I'm so frustrated and you're like, you got this, keep going.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me through. So that's what we've been up to, I guess, this past week. Erica, why don't you kick us off with your first game?
Okay, so this week, my game that I played, it was actually on my wish list for a long time, and then I realized that you actually own this game, so I played your copy of it.
Okay.
So this game is Toby, The Secret Mine. It is by Lucas Navratil? I'm so sorry. I know I said that incorrectly.
You gave it your best shot.
I tried. And the tags for this on Steam are indie, adventure, platformer, single player, and dark.
Ooh, a dark game.
And yeah, and so dark is very fitting for this game.
Okay.
So this game, it looks a lot like Limbo. Have you played Limbo before?
I have. Man, that's a blast from the past. I remember I played on Xbox 360. That was a long time ago, man.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so it looks like Limbo. So everything in the foreground, everything that you interact with is black.
Okay.
And the background is the only thing that has color. And the color in the background, and it entirely looks really pretty. Like it has great, you know, like lighting. You can see like the different sun rays and stuff in different sections. And when it's raining, it looks nice. Even if it's all black in the foreground.
So somehow it's very visually pleasing while still being just black.
Yeah. Well, there is one level where it's like snow and it's just stark white. And after playing through all the dark black stuff, you get thrown out into the snow and it's like, oh my God, my eyes.
Yeah, I would imagine that's like, imagine you've been using Discord in dark mode your entire life and then you flip it to light mode and you're like, no, the light.
See, I'm not like that kind of person. I use light mode. I don't
use
dark
light mode? Then But I get what you're saying, though. You go from being in all dark and shadow. It's like that philosophy thing, you know, where you emerge from the cave and the light's so blinding, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. So Stark
So
White.
enough about how this looks. So this game is a platformer. So you're this cute little guy. You kind of have little pointy ears. Imagine like what you would think of like a mastiff dog kind of thing. You know how they have those kind of ears? Where they're just like pointy.
Is that okay? Yeah.
So you've got a head, you know, a flat little head with the little pointy ears and a little like just human-like body. And you start out and you're there and everything's completely black. You're completely black and you have white little eyes. And you walk up and there's a little house and there's two more people that look exactly like you standing there. And just after the house is this huge version of you, but they have red eyes.
Ooh.
And this red eye person has a little cage with another version of you in it. So he's kidnapping your friends.
Okay.
Is what I'm getting from
your
this
friends,
game.
your family, you know, hide your wives, hide your daughters, that kind of stuff.
Oh my god.
No?
Yes. Yeah, so he's stealing all your little friends. So I didn't get to finish this game, as I said in the beginning. I really want to, so this is something I'm going to continue playing. But as far as I've gotten, so you're going through these levels and you're, you know, doing these platforms, and in a lot of the levels, there's puzzles. So, you know, if you run over here and flip this switch, then across the screen, something happens and you have to like time it right or make sure you do the right things. And so all it is just getting through and finding your little friends. And so they're usually hidden. So if you're walking along the black ground and you drop down a little cliff and then you keep walking, if you turn around to go backwards, usually there's a little guy there and it's just like in a hidden room that you don't see. And so it's like trying to find your friends. I think there's 26 of them.
Oh my gosh.
And I've gotten 13 of them.
So they're all just like a bunch of little like hidden Easter eggs, I guess. Like you kind of have to like throw yourself against every wall in hopes that it opens.
Kinda, yeah. So I feel like this is very much a game for like the completionist kind of thing, because you can get through it and save some of the guys, because some of them, they're just out and you see the big guy and you continue through that level, because every time you see the big guy with the red eyes, he runs. And so usually he'll leave a little friend behind, or somewhere in that area he'll be like hanging up above you or something, and you'll see like, oh look, there's a little guy. Let me go save him. But there's some, like I said, that they're hidden inside the wall of, you know, a random platform, and you don't know unless you actually walk into that wall.
Okay.
So it's definitely something that I can see like completionists trying to find all of the little guys, you know, because I feel like you can definitely get through this game without finding all of them. Like I found 13 out of 26.
So
but
you're
I think
halfway
I've
there.
gone through more than half of the game. So I feel like there's some that I've missed.
Okay. Now, like, these little dudes, like, do they give you any sort of, like, hint? Like, I know, like, in Banjo-Kazooie, you know, the little, what were they, the Jinjos? Remember, they would, like, call out to you? They'd be like, hey, hello, and stuff. You know, and so, like, you know, you'd be walking through a place, and all of a sudden you'd hear them calling, and you're like, oh, I gotta find them. Where are they at, you know? Anything like that?
As far as I know, I don't think so. So I wasn't playing this with headphones in, which I think might have made a little bit of a difference.
Okay.
Just thinking about like the level where, you know, you're walking through and it's raining. So I know I can remember that I could hear the rain, but not necessarily anything else. Like I don't think there's really any background music, but it might just be that I was playing it on the laptop without any headphones or earphones or anything.
So you were just relying
and
on
so I might have been
the crummy laptop speakers to do your audio?
Yeah. Yeah, and so I might have missed something, you know, some kind of audio clues or anything like that.
Okay. I was going to ask you about background music, because I think Limbo was very distinct about that. That Limbo had absolutely no background music, but it had a ton of, like, environmental audio, if that makes any sense. Like, you mentioned the rain, and I remember a level in Limbo that you could hear, like, the rain pattering on rooftops and flowing off of buildings and stuff like that. So did Toby have a lot of that?
Yeah, I would say I would say that is very similar to that. So I like I said, as far as I know, I didn't hear any background music, but I could hear the rain, and then if there were like big swinging axes, you could hear the swing of the axes.
All the swooshing?
Or, yeah, the swooshing, the swoosh, swoosh, as you're trying to jump through them and get killed multiple times. So there was that, and I think like the snow level I talked about, it was very windy at points, and you could hear the wind.
So you were like in a blizzard kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it is very much more of the environmental thing, and maybe if I did play it with headphones, maybe as I continue playing it, I'll put some headphones on and actually listen to the sounds and see if there's something I've been missing this whole time.
Oh yeah, especially if you use these guys, they have fantastic audio qualities.
So yeah, it's, a puzzle platformer kind of thing. A lot of the puzzles are pretty intuitive to get. There are some that I ran into issues with. So there was one where I got to this point where there was a hallway and that was the only way forward. So I would walk through it and it would just instantly shoot you with like 5 or 6 arrows.
Oh gosh.
And I was like, okay, maybe if I stand in this spot, I won't get shot, and gets shot, that whole thing is like, it didn't work out the way she thought it would. And so like after dying to this hallway like 20 times, I was like, there has to be like, I'm standing in this one spot that I know after my 20 times through this hallway, I know no arrows actually hit this spot in the ground. I should be safe. But you're not. Like, it purposefully shoots you in this hallway. It's like
you're standing in the clear and one veers left to hit you.
Well, no, it just, the animation doesn't change. You're hit. And it's just, okay. If you're anywhere in this hallway, you're hit, no matter what. It could have missed you by an inch. It could have just, you're going to get hit, no matter what.
Okay.
Which was really frustrating because I was like, I am standing here and no arrows hit this specific spot and I'm short enough that they don't hit me as they're coming down. Why is this happening? And it was just really frustrating. I couldn't understand how to get through this hallway. I thought maybe if I could stand in this one spot, all the arrows will shoot out and then I'll just keep moving, Yeah. That didn't work. So oh. So eventually, in like maybe the level before or maybe 2 before it or something, there was a new mechanic introduced where there are certain spots on the ground that if you jump on them, they'll break and you'll fall down into it and, there's stuff down there. Well, so because of the way the game is designed with the all black foreground and the colorful background, it's really hard to pick up on clues like that. So eventually I realized there's a small divot right before this hallway. There's a small divot in the ground right before this hallway of death. And so I thought, well, it wouldn't hurt to just jump on this a few times to see if it works. And it did. Oh. And I was very upset.
That's gotta be so upsetting, yeah.
And so, it broke and there was a whole nother, underground tunnel that bypassed the death hallway and it was fine. And then ever since then, everywhere I was going, if I ran into something that I was like, there's no way, this is too hard, I would just start jumping everywhere.
Hoping that you'd find another secret hole.
Yeah, just in case, what if there is another secret little hole there? So some of the puzzles are a little frustrating. I'm not the best at platformers either, so a lot of the ones where it was very timed, so like with the swinging axes and stuff, where it was like, okay, I need to jump onto that platform, over to there, and then duck down in this one. Like, it was rough for me. I died a lot. But that's just me not being that great at games.
Well, I mean, so that's the point of the point of the podcast, though, is to get you to step out of your box, try things outside your comfort zone. So yeah. If you don't normally like platforms, then man, kudos for you for trying it out.
I know. It's just, it always looked good. And I feel like I've seen Limbo, or at least seen someone play Limbo at some point, because I know I haven't personally played it. And I think I had just seen this on Steam one day, just scrolling through, or maybe it was recommended to me, I don't remember. but it was like, oh, this looks a lot like Limbo. Like, this will be fun, you know? And I love good puzzles, you know? I'm sure that's apparent already that I like a good puzzle. So the fact that it has puzzles in the platforming, I really liked. It's, you know, flip this switch and then run over here and do this, or some of them are timed. So it's like, hit this button and then you have to run all the way to the other button and hit it, and, you know, before that one's done, stuff like that. And I thought that was all really fun. I just didn't care too much for the, okay, let me wait for the sword. Okay, no, wait, no, yeah, no, I missed my window. Like, I don't care for that too much.
So, platformers are, I would say they could definitely be an acquired taste, but.
So yeah, that was my game for this week. That was Toby, The Secret Mine. And you can get that on Steam. It's $10 right now if you want to play it. I haven't gotten to the end of it. Maybe you will. Let me know how it looks.
You'll get there at some point.
What game did you play this week, Nick?
Yeah, so the game I played this week is called Breakpoint. It is by Studio Aesthesia. I hope I'm saying that right. Kind of like it's Studio Aesthesia. Kind of like anesthesia, but there's no N. So, Studio Aesthesia. So, yeah, there you go.
You were thinking of Anastasia, weren't you?
I was. So, yeah. Gosh, I think that's a Disney movie now, technically. All right, we won't get into that. But
technically.
So, I was actually given a free code to play this by the publisher, who is the Quantum Astrophysicists Guild. That's a mouthful. They were kind enough to send me a code to try it out on Steam. And I booted it up, and I gotta say, it instantly jumped out at me. I mean, it could be that it had some pretty bright neon colors, which is pretty cool. You know, bright neon colors, some banging like old school arcade style music. It was great. So the premise of Breakpoint is that, think of it kind of like asteroids. You know, you're a little triangle in the very center of the map, and you move around with one stick, and other little polygons are trying to hit you. Because if they collide with you, you break. And you have 3 lives every run. And so the point is just go as long as you can. Get the maximum high score. So I think Steam has this guy tagged as a twin stick shooter. But it's more apt to call it a twin stick slasher, I guess you could say. Because you don't have a gun, you've got melee weapons. So every time you move your second stick, you know, that would normally shoot your gun, your little triangle swings a melee weapon. So you start off with like a battle axe, and you swing it, and it's got a nice little arc, and you can take out like 5 or 6 little enemy ships, you know, in one swing. And as you're going, bigger, badder polygons will show up trying to hit you and break you. And as you break them, when you start to get kind of combos, because it also has a mechanic where you can throw your weapon, I guess. So The game's called Breakpoint because I guess the whole premise is every so many hits, your weapon will break. And when it breaks, it does like the big explosion, which will kill like all the enemies within like a certain radius of you.
Do you get your weapon back when it breaks, or
yeah, you do.
Have to look for another one?
You don't. You get it back when it breaks. What it does is, as you're killing enemies, you're picking up little stardust-looking things, like they're little glowy pieces, right? And you have a meter at the bottom that fills up, and basically it's kind of like leveling up as you go. The weapon will do more and more damage until it breaks. And when it breaks, it basically resets your meter. The goal is to try to kill, like, it's kind of like maximize your swings. You want to kill as many enemies with one swing as you can, because you only get so many swings before, so many, it's kind of weird. Like, it's like every time you swing the weapon and hit something, that counts towards your little meter that counts down. So
yeah, so it's like a damage thing, right? So you can swing it as much as you want as long as you're not hitting something. Yeah. As soon as you hit it, the durability goes down.
Yeah,
basically.
But it gets kind of weird because like if you swing it and let's say you hit like 5 enemies with it, it doesn't count as 5 individual hits. It just counts it as one. That's one tick because it's one swing of the axe that kills enemies, I guess.
Okay.
It's kind of a weird little mechanic, but that way it incentivizes you to try to maximize your swings. So you're killing a bunch of guys with as few swings as possible. That way you can level up your weapon. Because when you max out your meter, your weapon becomes enormous. And your guy starts like, basically every time you do a little attack stick, your guy spins in circles like some crazy barbarian swinging his weapon around. And it just knocks out tons and tons of enemies. And it'll do that until eventually the weapon breaks. But if you max out your weapon and it breaks, it does this huge explosion and like the screen shakes and rattles and all the enemies on the map explode. And so that's if you do it with a fully upgraded weapon. So it's pretty cool. It's got a bunch of different weapons you can get, and they all play a bit differently. So you start off with a battle axe. You can eventually find like a dagger, which swings really fast but has shorter range. You can find a sword that does a little sweeping motion, like you go, kind of like you swing left and right, like really fast with it. And then there's a war hammer you can get, which I don't like. It's super slow. I'm trying to swing my weapon, and it's like, yeah. And it's like, come on, man. There's like 10 people flying at me. Swing faster. And so you can get that. There's a spear, which is kind of a weird playstyle because it just pokes straight out in front of you. It doesn't swing at all. So you're just like poke, 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 poke. So you have to
with that, you would kind of want to like kite things around so that they're in a straight line and then stab forward. Yes,
I was trying my best to herd them into lines and clusters. That way I could get as many guys with one poke as I could get. I think those are the only ones that I got. I'm sure there are probably more weapons in there. I'm just not very good at this game. I think the highest score I've gotten so far was like 100,010 or something like that. And every time you finish a round, it pops up like your score, how your modifiers, and then it'll show where you are on the national leaderboard. And I have, I'm like 378, so I'm doing pretty good. I'm in the top 500. So
well, if I remember correctly, I watched you play your first round of this, and you were like 436 out of 437.
I moved up. I got better. But yeah, it's crazy to see like the number one slot. I think he has like 8 million points. And I just don't understand how you could get that far. Like when I was up in the 100,000, and like by the time I got there, the screen was just covered in neon. There were guys everywhere. And as you get further on, then the polygons start to get more advanced. Like they start out with just various shapes that fly at you, like little green triangles and little red octagons and stuff, As you get further on, they'll have like little blue squares that project a shield that protects their friends and stuff like that, And so I have to throw my axe at the little blue box to break him. It gets pretty crazy. And I just don't understand how someone could get like 8 million points. Like, man, like I said, maybe I just have really bad reflexes and I need to work on it. But it's crazy to think about how insane the match has to be when you get that far. So I honestly really love this game. I will continue to play it. This is definitely going to be one of my back burner games. I think if I ever have just a little bit of downtime between things, I'm totally going to pick this game up. You could just play around, really quickly. But yeah, so I really liked it. I would highly recommend it. You can get it on Steam. It might be on other platforms as well. I know it actually it came out in September, so relatively new game. So pretty exciting.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's Breakpoint by Studio Aesthesia. Yes, there you go. Aesthesia. I can say words. All right, so that was it for our video games. Now we're going to talk about the board game we played this past week. So the board game that we tried out was Caverna by Uwe Rosenberg. I hope I said that right. Uwe, Uwe, is that right?
Yeah, that's how it's spelled. I'm not 100% sure if that's how it's pronounced, but that's my best guess.
And then published by Lookout Games. I think in our research, I think you said what? Uwe is the co-founder of Lookout Games, right?
Yes, that's what I've found. Who knows what the internet says, if it's true or not, but that's what the internet said when I looked it up.
I saw it on Wikipedia. It has to be true, right? So, all right. So Caverna is a lot like my number one game from my top fives list, Agricola, which I think is another game by Uwe Rosenberg. And you could totally see that this is definitely the spiritual successor to Agricola. Has a lot of those same vibes. It is probably my dream game, I love a good worker placement. So the base premise of this game is every player is competing dwarves, or dwarf clans, basically. So we all start out in our own little cave, and we have to decide if we want to dig deeper into the mountains to set up mines, or if we want to clear out the forest around our cave to set up agriculture. And so it's pretty cool. You could have 1 to 7 players, I believe. So we only played with the 2 of us. But honestly, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how this would play out with 7 people. I don't know if we could rally 7 people, but if we get close, I bet we could get 5 or 6 people playing this, you know?
I think usually we get a good maybe 4 people playing a game.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Especially, a lot of people don't want to play my older brother. He's slow. But
turn timer.
Exactly. He'll never have a slow turn again because we only give him so much time.
So like you mentioned, you start out as a dwarf in a cave. And the game board is kind of split out in half. So one half is the cave and the mountain that you're digging in. And the other half is the forest that you're clearing as you're, putting out sheep fields and just regular fields where you plant vegetables and stuff. And so the whole concept of the game is you start off with 2 family members and they each can have 1 action, and so you're taking actions based on this big board that you put out, and it changes based on the number of players you have. If you have more players, you have more actions that are available, because if you start with 7 people, that's 14 actions, and the 1 player board that we were looking at only had about 15 maybe to start off with.
I think like the maximum number of actions, was like 15.
So obviously that wouldn't be enough for a 7-player game. So it does scale up with the amount of players you have. And so on this base board, you have a lot of different options and things to choose from. You can, you can clear the forest, you can dig the mine deeper, you can just harvest resources, you can get meals, you can eventually, get more dwarfs by having a family, growing your family.
Baby dwarves are like hatched from eggs, right? Yeah, that's how that works.
Yeah, that's totally how that works. You actually mine them out. They come in like a nice geode. You break the geode.
You bust a geode, and
comes out.
It's a baby nugget. Yay! That's so. All right. Yep.
So the game is played in different rounds, and each round can either harvest or not harvest, or something in between based on the way that you're playing it. So the first round for sure is no harvest, so you don't have to feed your family. Everyone's fine. They don't need food. Every round after that, if it's a normal harvest, then each little dwarf needs to eat 2 food. Unless they're a baby, then they only need 1.
Okay.
And so getting 2 food for the end of every round seems very stressful, especially if you played Agricola.
Yeah, Agricola,
start off with.
It was massive because, you're competing with everybody for such limited resources, and you want to make the best choices to get yourself points. Because at the end of the day, you want it has its own victory points system, right? And at the end, it tabulates it you've got so much wheat and so much sheep and so much this, but so you want to make sure you're making the best choices, but you also have to feed your people, and food can be kind of scarce, especially when you're competing with other players. So
yeah, and in Agricola, you didn't have to there wasn't an unknown about the harvest at the end of every round.
Yeah, you knew when it was coming.
Yeah, you knew exactly when it was coming, and you knew, okay, I need to get, 6 food by the end of this round, and I have, so many turns to get there. So what Caverna does is, for the first 2, it tells you specifically. So the first round, there's no harvest. You don't have to feed anyone. And the second one, everyone only eats 1 meal.
Okay.
So that's not too hard. Yeah, you start off with two little dwarves anyway, so just 2 meals. That's not that hard. You can get that pretty simply.
Yeah.
But after that, it's got these round trackers that are on one side is just a stone with a question mark, and then on the other side it's either a green, a red, or a question mark. And so each of those means a different thing. So green means that you will harvest, and each dwarf needs 2 food, no matter what. And you don't know what it is. They suggest that you play without knowing what it is during the round, and you just flip it at the end of the round to see, oh, do we harvest or not?
Well, yeah.
That way it brings
Well, that way it's kind of like, were you prepared for the winter? I mean, I hope so.
Yeah, like, is it going to be a good year or a bad year? No one knows until the end of the year.
Yep.
The red ones mean that there's no harvest, so you don't have to feed anyone.
Okay.
And then the question marks, there's actually a different card that tracks the question marks. And so the first question mark means that there's no harvest. The second question mark that you come upon means that there's a half harvest, so everyone eats one food.
Okay.
And then the last question mark is there is a harvest. So it just depends on how many question marks have come out, since you've been playing. And then also if it's a green or a red if you're going to harvest or not. And so I think that brings a little bit of unpredictability to the end of each round, which is pretty cool. So if you can't feed your family at the end of the round, you have to take a beggar card for each dwarf that you can't feed.
Okay. So like you had to go out panhandling for food?
Yeah, you had to go out and beg for food. And that is actually like -3 points to your score at the end.
And that's for every single worker that you didn't have food for?
I believe so, yeah.
Ooh. So like later in the game, because like you can grow your family, right? So you can grow it up to like 5 dwarves. Could you imagine if you only managed to feed one? And then like,
yeah.
Or like you're not prepared and it's like, oh, guess what? There's a double harvest this year. And like,
yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah,
that'd be so rough.
So it brings unpredictability. That's pretty cool. So during every round, you should, if you're a conservative player, make sure that you have enough food at the end of each round.
Okay.
Or if you want to take the risk, you can just be like, oh well, it might or it might not be a harvest, and I have enough for one person, and if I lose 3 points, then that's not too bad. So you got to kind of make those calculations as you're going through. And is it worth it to just not get the food this time? Or should I make sure that I'm not going to get that -3?
Yeah, you kind of have to weigh it, right? So
yeah, it's very much a decision thing. And I like that it should be unpredictable for each round. Like you wait to see if you're harvesting or not at the end of the round, just so that if you're unprepared, you're unprepared. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You thought you thought you had more time, but eventually the Starks are always right and winter comes. So
yeah.
Okay. Pretty cool.
And you mentioned, the other scoring. So you get scored based on the type of animals you have, the number of them. You also get scored based on how full your board is. So if there are empty spaces on your board, then those are negative points also.
Yeah, because I think each board has like 24 squares, right? Like it's like 12 forest and 12 mines, basically, or something like that, 12 mountain.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay.
So it's a lot to fill up, really.
Well, yeah, but the game has like, it's got like 12 rounds. Yeah, so you've got plenty of time to fill it up. It's all just, did you mismanage your time, I suppose, right?
Yeah, and so there's another way to earn points in this game that's very unique to this versus Agricola, which is the missions or the little expeditions. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that? Yeah,
so that was totally a brand new mechanic from Agricola. So with this one of the resources that you can harvest is ore. So I mean, naturally, if you're mining, you would get ore. Well, when you have enough ore, there's a specific action on the board, so only one person can do it per turn, that lets you basically go to the smithy, and you can smith weapons for your dwarves. And once a dwarf is given a weapon, that's their weapon forever. You can't take it away from them and upgrade it and stuff like that. It's theirs. The level of your weapon is determined by the amount of ore you spend on it. So if you saved up 5 ore for your weapon, then it is a level 5 weapon. And as you're going through the game, like the initial slat of tasks you can do will have like a level 1 mission and like a level 2 mission on there. But as you're going, you're flipping little cards for what's the new action each round, and eventually way higher level missions will come up. And you've got to have a person who has a weapon that is that mission's level +1 to be able to go on it. And so I thought that's pretty neat. And whenever a person goes on a mission, their weapon automatically levels up. Kind of like they gained XP while they were out there, They cracked a few goblin skulls and got some XP, and they came back and leveled up, Instant muscle gain. And so I thought that was really neat. And then the expeditions, like the way that they work is there's no chance of failing the expedition. So it's just that, are you able to take that action or not before someone else does? And it was a really neat way to ensure that if there was a resource you couldn't get, then you would want to go on like a certain level of expedition to try to get it. Because like I think a level 2 expedition would let you pick between having like 1 wheat or a sheep. And like a level 4 would let you have like a donkey or a pumpkin. And a level 1 would give you like a dog or something else, And so it gave you like a lot of options. So if you really, really needed a pumpkin for food, and all the pumpkins on the board had been taken, well, you could go on a mission and go get yourself a pumpkin. And so I thought that was a really neat mechanic that kind of helps with the scarcity of resources. But I mean, there's also just scarcity of actions. So your opponents might wind up scooping up all the expeditions before your turn gets to go. So I thought that was pretty neat.
And that's something too, the way that people can take the expeditions before you. So if your little dwarves have weapons, whichever person has the lowest level weapon has to go first.
Okay.
So any dwarf without a weapon, they go first. They don't have anything. And so if you have 3 dwarfs that don't have a weapon and your 4th one has like a 14, but someone else that you're playing with has a dwarf that they have like a 5, an 8, and a 10, then they're going to be able to go on those missions before you are, because only one of your dwarfs has that weapon. And so it also goes with the whole like scarcity of the choices, right? So if someone has a whole bunch of weapons, even if they're all low level, if they're just enough to get to that one expedition that you want to go on, it might delay you because your one dwarf is, 4th in line to go out and do anything.
So it incentivizes you to make sure you're kind of spreading the love around with your workers rather than stacking all of your ore on one guy and, like you said, giving him like a level 14 weapon. Because it's just that the high level weapons go later on your order, right? It's not like my level 14 has to wait until after someone else is level 12, right?
No, yeah, it's just your order. So if you had a 2, a 3, and a 4, you would have to play them in that order, a 2, 3, or 4, even if the other person has, a 14, a 16, and a 18.
Okay.
Like, you just have to play it in the order of your dwarf's strength, I guess, is the way you can see that.
Yeah.
And then also on the expeditions you mentioned, rewards. So the rewards are different on each level of the expeditions that they go on. And some of them you can just bring back victory points.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
As the rewards.
Some of the higher level missions, right? It's just like you just go out and bam, bring back 2 or 3 points.
Yeah, so that's also a good way to know, like, oh, well, I do have a beggar card. Let me send my dwarf out on this mission and negate that. I have +3 victory points and a -3, so it cancels out. We're all good,
yeah, works out in the end. But yeah. And I know when I mentioned Agricola, I think we talked about how when you first open the box, there's just bukus of pieces, just so many little pieces. Well, this is of that same vein. There's just so many little parts, but I think it's just great because a lot of them feel like they're just such nice little quality wooden pieces, like all of the animal tokens, the food tokens, well, the food like crops tokens. A lot of the meals are like little cardboard spots, and then like there's a lot of little cardboard parts, but I really enjoyed all the wooden things. Like your workers are nice little wooden pogs, and you've got little wooden houses. So I thought all of the little parts were really nice. I know when we first opened it, it was quite a bit of work popping all the pieces out, right? It was a lot, but
yes.
But at least it came with a whole bunch of little baggies for you to organize everything into, which I think is fantastic. I mean, I think that's really awesome of them to do it.
I think that's good, but what I would want for this game would be something like an insert in like a tackle box where you have all the little partitions.
Okay.
And you just open the lid of the box and you can pull out whatever you need.
Oh, yeah.
Because I felt like when we were replenishing the board over and over again, going through 8 different little bags of stuff was a bit tedious. And I feel like if you can get some kind of like tackle box type insert that would fit into the main game box and was deep enough where, all the wood could fit in one spot and stuff like that, I think that would make it so much better and easier for play and cleanup.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the little bags are cool, but like I said, when you're having to go through the wood and the stone and the ore and the rubies and it just goes on and on.
I didn't think about that. So it would work a lot like the little banker's tray from Monopoly, where you have all of it already organized in one spot and it's just already in the box, like bam.
Yeah, I would just want it to have a lid because I don't want all the stuff to fall out during travel.
Oh, yeah, no, it definitely has to have a way to close up. But so that is definitely a big boon because I know I've seen a lot of other board games that they don't really come with anything like that, and so that can be a little annoying's the wrong word. I guess tiresome. I don't know. So it's a nice little thing. I think kudos to them for including all the little baggies. I mean, I know they're cheap and you can get them pretty easy online, but if I already have them, I don't need to order them. So that's pretty great.
Yeah, it's definitely nice, especially when you first open the game and it's like, okay, let's play this. And if you don't have all the little bags and it's a complete mess, there's so many little pieces to have them all spread out on the table, and the board itself already takes up so much space.
It does. It is a table hog.
You're not going to be able to make little mountains of all the little pieces without them getting all over the place.
Yeah,
so
it's definitely because the
bags are definitely
because think about it. Every player has like a 12 by 8 card, right? It's a pretty big card for their whole square. So you have 7 of those on the board.
Maybe like a sheet of paper kind of thing, like in a 8 by 11 or something.
Yeah, so it's like that. So every player has a little cardboard card like that, and then the playboard is double or triple of that in the center.
Yeah,
and then you're gonna have little bags of wooden pieces all over the place. So it can definitely get a little crazy. I think that would probably be one boon to having a lot of players, is you could have one person is the banker for wood and rocks. And one person holds on to the wheat and the pumpkins. And one guy's got the livestock. And one dude's in charge of the meal tokens, So that would definitely expedite things a little bit. I mean, your idea is actually fantastic. We should probably look for a tackle box. I'm not going to lie. We can go down to the sporting goods section, and see what we can find. But yeah, so that's Caverna. So that was our game this week. Caverna by Uwe Rosenberg. This game has been around for quite a while. I'm sure you can get it at any of the major board game places. I'm pretty sure we got ours from Amazon. So that's going to be it for us for this week. Thank y'all for coming back, and we look forward to seeing y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.